right, listener, ready for another deep dive.
Always.
Today we're heading to Bali.
Nice.
Yeah, to Mason Elephant Park. We're diving into all the brochures and articles we could find about their elephant ride experience.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, and getting up close and personal with Sumatran elephants,
Mm-hmm.
it's more than just a vacation thing, don't you think?
Oh, for sure. Looking through these materials, it's really interesting how they go beyond the typical touristy stuff. They're really selling this whole thing as an educational experience about conservation, not just a fun day out.
Yeah, I totally got that vibe too. It's not just like hop on an elephant, go for a ride.
Yeah.
They want you to understand these animals and why it's important to protect them.
Definitely. Having a museum and botanical gardens right there points to that. It's like they're trying to get visitors to connect with elephants on a whole new level. It's more meaningful than just a photo op.
And they really play up that sensory experience too. The brochure mentions serene landscapes and a tranquil village. It's like they're transporting you to a different world before you even get there.
Smart tactic. Travelers love immersive experiences. And speaking of immersive experiences, imagine yourself actually on that elephant ride.
Oh, yeah.
30 minutes through the lush forests around Taro Village.
Wow.
We're talking about a place known for some serious biodiversity.
I bet. What kind of unique plants and animals might you see on a trek like that?
Well, Bali is home to the Bali starling.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really cool bird, critically endangered white with this black mask.
Wow.
And if you're lucky, you might spot a Javan hawk eagle soaring above, or maybe even a long-tailed macaque swinging through the trees.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the actual elephant encounter. The itinerary mentioned feeding baby elephants.
Yeah.
I have to admit that piqued my interest. But I'm curious, what are your thoughts on these close interactions with the animals, especially in a conservation setting?
It's tricky. There aren't any easy answers. On the one hand, those close encounters can be really powerful for people.
Yeah.
Like they can foster empathy and understanding, which are super important for conservation. But then again,
You have to think about what's best for the animals.
exactly. Any interaction with wildlife has to have some really strict ethical guidelines. You want to make sure it's good for the elephants and the visitors.
It's about finding that balance, for sure. So beyond the elephant interactions themselves, they offer a lot of other activities, too. Museum-guided tours of their botanical gardens, even lunch with a view of a lake. They've really put together a whole experience.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder who their target audience is.
That's a really good point. When you look at the brochures, they really highlight their private transportation options, like it's a premium upgrade.
Right.
That says to me they're trying to attract a certain type of traveler, someone who really values comfort and personalized service.
Yeah, that makes sense. They even offer to add stops at other attractions if you do the private transfer,
Oh, really?
like the Teagle along rice terraces and the Ubud swing.
Wow, so they're really curating a certain kind of Bali experience.
Totally.
It's for those travelers who want a very specific trip, like maybe they're short on time or they don't feel comfortable navigating the island on their own.
Interesting. And they actually mention two different websites, BaliMagicTour.com and BaliElephantTrek.com. It's like they're trying to appeal to different kinds of searches.
Definitely a smart move for online visibility. They want to make sure that anyone who's interested can actually find them, whether they're searching for a broader Bali trip or if they're specifically looking for an elephant encounter.
Now for the question. I think we all want to know the answer to, how much does this cost?
Well, the brochures don't really say.
Yeah.
They just encourage you to check their website or contact them directly for a quote.
Which makes me think that they probably have different pricing tiers depending on what you want.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like if you want to do shared versus private transportation or those extra stops and all that.
Definitely. That's pretty common in the tourism world. It lets them be flexible with pricing, and it maybe makes those higher price packages feel a little bit more exclusive.
Right. But if you had to guess, what do you think the price range would be?
Well, based on what similar experiences cost in that area and just generally in the industry, I wouldn't be surprised if prices started around $100 per person
Okay.
and went up from there, depending on what you choose.
So not exactly a budget-friendly activity.
Right.
But then again, we are talking about a very unique experience, and they do seem to really care about conservation.
And don't forget all the other stuff that's included, transportation park entrance fees, and they've mentioned a buffet lunch. It's all part of the package.
True. They really seem to have thought about the logistics to make it easier for visitors.
Yeah.
Speaking of logistics, I noticed that they specifically say you have to pay in advance with a credit card online.
Huh, interesting. That actually might seem like a small detail, but it could tell us something about the kind of traveler they're hoping to attract.
What do you mean?
Well, it seems like they're catering to people who are comfortable with online transactions, people who are pretty tech savvy and used to booking their own travel.
Good point. Although they do say you can book last minute through WhatsApp, too, for those who are a bit more spontaneous.
That's true.
It's all about options, right?
Yeah.
Making it easy to book.
Exactly. It just goes to show you how important flexibility and adaptability are in the travel industry today.
It really seems like they've thought of everything.
They really have. You can tell it's a competitive industry, especially somewhere like Bali, that attracts tourists from all over the world.
It's a tough balance to strike.
It is.
Trying to highlight what makes an experience special while also appealing to a lot of different kinds of travelers and still making sure that the animals are being treated well.
It really is. It makes you realize how interconnected everything is when it comes to travel.
It really does. Every little decision we make as travelers can have an impact.
Yeah.
And looking at Mason Elephant Park really shows that, from the way they've designed the whole experience to the messages they're putting out there.
Totally. And, speaking of interconnectedness, I noticed something interesting in the brochure. They mention that the park is in this village called Taro.
Right.
And it made me think about the economic side of things. The impact the park must have.
That's a good point. It's not just some isolated thing. It's part of the community.
Exactly. Having this park in Taro probably means jobs and income for the locals.
Definitely.
So it's a big part of their local economy.
Which brings in the whole idea of sustainable tourism, right?
Exactly.
It's not just about protecting the animals and the environment, but also making sure that the people who live there benefit too.
It's all about finding that balance between tourism and responsible development.
Well, listener, we've definitely covered a lot of ground today. We've explored Sumatran elephants, talked about ethical tourism, and even touched on the economic side of these kinds of experiences.
It's been quite a journey. And it just goes to show that there's always more to discover.
Always. So, listener, as you continue to think about maybe visiting Basin Elephant Park, here's something to consider. If you were designing an elephant tourism experience with animal welfare and visitor education as your top priorities, what would it look like? Let us know your thoughts. Until next time, keep exploring.